Good afternoon. We're going to do the options watch list for the week of August 10th, 2020. If you're not in our Discord room, the link is in the bio. You should join. Last week we had a very good week, and hopefully this week will continue to be just as good. So I'll start off with the bullish. I don't have much on the bullish side because I think that we're going to get a pullback soon, but I'll start with that. I'm going to talk about SPY first. I know I have ES, the futures up, and the reason I do is because SPY, I've got a ton of lines, and it's just very distracting to look, so I'll just use the futures instead so you can see a clearer picture. But I was looking at the puts and call ratio, and they're pretty high right now. A lot of people are shorting, so I wouldn't be surprised if we have a short squeeze tomorrow or even Tuesday too. So the thing I want to point out is that every time that the ES features or SPY, it double tops and it goes beyond the double top. It goes beyond it just a little bit to fake people out. Now I'm looking at the weekly, and I'm expecting the SPY will pretty much do the same thing. There's so many people are expecting it to dump now that it's probably doubtful it's going to double top. If anything, it's probably going to squeeze through to make a new high before it actually does dump. Now, if you look at the history right back here on 122, it double tops right here at 813, and look what it does. It squeezes above it just a little bit before it knifes through shortly after. And if you look at it back here, it does the same thing. It pops up just a little bit right here before it knifes down, and then you look at the double top right here, it pops up before it knifes, and it keeps doing it. I mean, right here it kind of did double top a little bit before it dropped, and then it just it just kept going through with the China news here, so trade deal. But I'm expecting that, the high on this is 33.9750. That I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they squeeze it to 3400 on the ES futures, which SPY would probably be probably 340. Yeah, 339.08. So 340. I think we're going to get a push to 340, probably 341 before we actually have a push fail or a retracement. So I don't expect a double top. I think they're going to push it to all-time highs, and they're not going to make it obvious. They don't like to make things too obvious, because when they do, they don't want you guys to make money. They want you guys to fail, and being too predictable is not in their best interest. So they're going to trick, trap, and fool people, and that's one way they're going to do it. They're trying to get in the shorts right now for a long term or a swing trade to swing short, and they're gonna push it up to 340 plus, and then they're gonna slam it down. So that's what I'm thinking is gonna happen. They could short squeeze tomorrow, could gap up tonight, and probably push into midday tomorrow to 340 plus, or Tuesday, then slam it down the rest of the week. So that's what I'm assuming is gonna happen. So that's what I expect to happen. So that's what I'll be watching for on SPY. Now BA is one to watch. Now BA had a decent reversal last week, which we nailed, and it's got a bull flag on the 1 hour and even on the daily. So if BA can get over 171, I think it can push to 175, and if for some reason it can get over 175, it could probably push to 180. They did lift travel restrictions. I really thought the news would be a little more better than what it was, or you get more positive price action, but there really wasn't. Just was very minimal. I was very kind of surprised about that. I thought with that news that it benefit Boeing, the airlines, the most, and Boeing would have just rocketed, but it wasn't really much. But it could be continuation this week, so there is a bull flag, so I'd watch it push to 175 to maybe even 180. Win is another one I'm watching. They had a big pop last week on, I think it was Thursday. Then we caught the drop on Friday. So if it can get over the 75 area, I would look for it to push over to 77, 78, even get into the 80s. And as you can see, you get kind of like inverted head and shoulders. You get like a little left shoulder right here, the head, and a possible right shoulder right here. And if it can get to 77, it's going to complete the right shoulder, and then it could possibly break out. So I would watch Win. Diz is another one. I mean, the Diz to me, I'd be watching for a short, but you know, because it's so extended from the earnings, and then you get the big gap, and Friday kind of was like choppy. But the thing I like about Disney is that you get this gap right here at 138 and 134, and I think that if it gets any momentum and breaks 132, it's going to go for a gap fill if the market is favorable on the for Disney. So I would watch for a gap fill in Disney. So actually, I might put a little alert here to let me know when it fills the gap, because I might actually short that when it gets there. So there, boom. I think I should put a little line there so I can see it. There we go. Next one is Lululemon, LULU. Why isn't that working? There we go. Now, if you look at the hourly, I mean, it's got an ascended triangle right here, and if it breaks out over 343, I believe, yeah, that's all-time high. I mean, Lululemon's just on a tear. It just keeps going up and up and up. So why fight it? Just the next area would probably be 350. You know, if it does break over the all-time high, push to 350, maybe even to 360 this week. So I would watch Lululemon. Triple M, 3M is the next one. It got hammered on earnings. It just kept going down, and it reversed on the hourly. Now I would like to see it pull back a little bit to like this consolidated area, the 155, and for a gap fill on the way up. So let's see. Gap fill to 163. Yeah, if it can get over, like I said, I'd rather see it pull back. But if it doesn't, anything over 159 for 163 gap fill for a triple M, that could be a decent play if the market's again. I already talked about SPY. Now the short side, FDX and UPS. Now they're pretty extended on the hourly and the daily. I mean, I'll bring up the weekly. This is I found interesting. Actually, I think it was UPS that was the one that was interesting. Well, anyways, every time FedEx gets away from this little orange line right here, which is the RCT trend line, it pulls back. It's away from it, pulls back. Then it does the opposite. And this thing acts as a magnet. Now, it's outside the Keltner channel on the weekly. I'm expecting a pullback on FedEx. It doesn't mean it will do it, but it could. I would watch it under 181 for a push down to the 178, and then down to 175. Now, if it does get to 175 area, I mean, it could get down to the 169, then down to the 163. So I'd watch FedEx. If the market's strong, it's probably going to keep going up, but UPS looks the same, even on the weekly, I think. Yeah, even the weekly, it's even worse. I mean, every time it gets disconnected from the RCT trend line, it keeps getting dragged down to it. So I did break this 135 area. I think I would be a bit surprised if it comes back and we test this 135. So I'd watch it underneath. You can go for 155, but I would probably watch it under 153 for a push down to the 145 on UPS, assuming that the market will drop or it drops. Roku is another one. Now, Roku, it's just bouncing in this area, and if you look at the weekly, it every time it gets above 165, it rejects hard. So you got one there, it rejected here just a couple of weeks ago, and it's going to do it here again. It didn't reject it too hard 2 weeks ago, but earnings didn't really do much to it. It rebounded from the earnings, so I mean, it could break out of the 165, but I definitely would rather see it on the short side underneath 153 for a push down to the 150s. Now, if it can break the 150s and the market's really weak, I mean, it's got room down here into the 135. So I would watch that on Roku. Next one is Netflix. Netflix, I've just been, ever since the last ER, that thing doesn't even belong above 500, but doesn't mean it won't go above 500. It could absolutely go above it, but I would like it underneath the 487. If it does get below 487, watch for it to push down to 478, even get to the 465 area. And if there's a really big sell-off, I mean, it can get down to the 450 area. So I would watch Netflix for the short side. Now, if the market's strong, Netflix is probably going to follow it. So you just have to adjust and play the other side of it if it follows the market. So I sometimes I'll call something bearish, and if the market's strong all week, I'll switch sides really fast. So like I did on BA last week. So Tesla. I mean, this thing is just barely hanging on. You look at the weekly, it's got like a descending wedge right here on the weekly. So it does manage to break that, let's see, 1425 area. It breaks below that. We get a gap down here into the 1230 area. So I think the first big area for it to fall, if it does drop, is the 1376, then the 1275 to possibly the 1230s, and there's another gap down here at the 1150 area. So I think Tesla is due for a big pullback. I mean, it's pretty overextended, so we'll just have to see if it actually does or not. Baba is the next one. Now, Baba's doing pretty much the same thing. It's just channeling in this 260 to 250 area. So I would like to see it under, let's see, under the 250 for a push to 275, 247, I mean. And then down to this trend line on the daily. This is the previous trend line. So you could see the push down to 240 and retest that trend line. So that would be good if Baba actually did that. Apple is another one. I know Apple's been strong, but I just think it's just so far extended on the hourly and the daily. It should pull back some, but if the market's strong, it probably won't. So, but I would watch it under 442 to come back down and retest this 435, 436 area. And if it does manage to break that, it's probably going to end up filling the gap down here to 425. If the market's really, really weak, it could go down to 420, 410, possibly retest this gap support at 405. So we'll have to see if Apple will actually pull back. I mean, it's pretty extended. I think it should, but who knows if it actually will. QCOM is the next one. I mean, you got possibly a head and shoulders right here on the hourly, left head, possibly right shoulder right there. If it does get into the under the 106 or 107 area, you could see it come down here to the 105. If it breaks that, gap support is at 100. And if it loses 100, 100 is a big psychological number. It probably will bounce right there if it does drop that much. And because usually what happens is when they get that far away from the gap support, that when they'll come back and at least test this gap support and bounce a little bit before failing. They're not going to. They don't usually just go straight through the gap when it's that far up, unless the gap is already closed. Like, I don't know if Apple's gap is close or not. I'll have to look. If toss loads, see, Apple, it could, because it's at 444 and the gap's right there. Like, I mean, it could fall through, but when it's usually up so high, it usually will come back and test it before falling through. But since the price action is not too far away from it, it could go straight down, straight through it. So on QCOM, so Hone is another one. I haven't traded Hone in a long time. Now, it does have a little cup and handle forming on the daily. I mean, it could break out, but it has trouble breaking out into this 155 area. So if it does fail to break out, I would watch it underneath 154 for a push to 150, even fill the gap down here into the 148 area. So I would watch Hone for the short side. Facebook, I mean, I know Facebook's just been on a tear since the little TikTok competitor its service it's going to have, so it's probably going to be really good for Facebook. But I mean, Facebook needs to pull back. It did pull back from 280 or 278, but I would like to see it come back and at least retest this 247 areas. So I would watch it underneath 265 to 255, even retest this 250 area, come back and retest that. Now, if the market's strong, Facebook's going to take off, or if there's more news about any more additional features Facebook's going to put out with the TikTok kind of copycat, that Facebook could take off more. So have to watch that and see how that plays out. But that's going to be pretty much it for the watch list. Like I said, I have a lot more on the bearish side as I expect the market to pull back maybe mid to end week, and that's what I would watch because they're the most extended. And if it does push higher with the market, then I just change the levels and just readjust my outlook. So yeah, that's gonna do it for the watch list. Thanks for watching.